Good morning. I'm saying good morning because where I'm sitting now, it's morning. In fact, the time is 8:15 and it's Friday the 13th of October 2023, and I'm in a car park under a Tesco store in England. So Friday the 13th of October, early in the morning. Some of you will be aware it's a significant day. An announcement has been made from that little enclave in Israel, that small place in the south, commanding all who are part of what they believe in to rise up and basically do what they did in southern Israel today throughout the world. Strong words. Most of you probably unaware, but some may be aware. And many have been, well, everyone's been told to stay home today. That's amazing, isn't it? More fear. Look at all the fear mongering we've been through for years now. So told to stay home today. Well, I'm not. I'm out in public. However, I am aware that that's fairly serious. So the thought is, I've heard, because I've been watching the media online, various things since last Saturday, and I feel utterly devastated for those in captivity now. I've seen the pictures. I've seen all the pictures. It's all the bad stuff that's being said is true. I've got contacts there. I get direct information. I get information that most people don't get. I get information from basically the highest sources in that country. And I could weep, and I have wept. I cannot imagine. It is hard to imagine what those captives are going through. So there's a strong response, and I've warned people, watch the BBC from the beginning, the British Broadcasting Corporation. Watch them. Watch media organisations do what they're going to do. I know there's lots of questions to ask. Many wonder, many can't explain it. But the response, strong, very strong. All I would say is put yourself in the shoes of those who that Saturday morning in the south, some at the party, yes, it was a rave. I noticed, so that's Israeli soil. These are young men and women, 3,000 of them in the south, 260 now deceased. Gruesome. Barbaric. I've seen the pictures. Everything, as I say, everything they're saying, claiming Israel, it is unfortunately, sadly true. And I've seen the pictures. I've seen the evidence. I've heard first-hand testimony personally. I'm a Christian, and I believe what Jesus Christ says. I encourage everyone, read the Gospels. They contain the words of the Messiah, the Anointed One. There is no other. There's only one. He came. He rose from death. He's at the right hand of the Father, and he's coming back. And I believe he's coming back soon. So some are saying, "Oh, don't worry. This is not in the Bible. This is not biblical." It is. Nothing can happen at this time we are in history unless it's biblical fulfillment. Nothing. Everything you're seeing climate-wise is biblical fulfillment. Everything you're seeing politically, everything you're seeing, oh, this is good now, we like this now, oh, support this now. In fact, if you don't agree with it, we'll even prosecute you. You're seeing children taken out of schools and arrested because of the various things they won't accept. That I've lost the the number of genders exist. I'm an old codger. I've been around a long time. I've only ever known two. I'm only aware of two. But apparently there are many. What is it? They and them is what people identify as. To me, that's third person. I can't get my head around it. It just doesn't compute in my head. So, and by the way, I have asked people, explain this to me. I've attempted to understand what on earth this means. Young people seem to understand. I still, having sat down for, it would be hours now with different young people, asking them to explain it, cannot get my head around it at all. The biblical prophecies say, so there's a time going to come, it's at the end times, where they will call that which is good bad, and that which is bad good. So that's where we are. And so that's what we're seeing happen. This is all biblical prophecy being fulfilled. What's happening now in the Middle East, in Israel, is actual biblical fulfillment. So I was just about to speak about the rave in the south. You've probably seen it if you've seen some of the videos. This is not too strong. This is before anything breaks out, and you can see the gliding machines or propeller little machines coming across. Just before they arrive and they're coming in the distance, there's a clip of a young person or somebody walking within the main tent arena, and as the camera slides round, now this is sovereign soil of God's land. So remember, they call it Israel, and they say it's the Jewish land. Well, of course, God makes it very clear in the Bible, no, it's my land. This is my land. And if you break all the rules, which he warned them, I'm going to take you out of it. Remember, Israel, the old Israel, which was the tribes in the north, they got taken off into captivity. He warned them, they wouldn't listen. Eventually, Judah was taken off into captivity, so they went off to Babylon. And they came back, and then the Romans arrived, and they'd taken off into the four corners of the world because they wouldn't believe him, and they put the Messiah to death, and so they rejected their Messiah. Now some might say, no, I don't believe that. It's okay. I'm sharing my belief, my understanding, having gone through the 66 books. I'm fully persuaded. So right now, there they were in the south here, I'm talking about the tent, and there was a raised area outside, not far outside, just like, I don't know, 10, 15 feet outside, about the size of a small car in size, and about the platform went up about, almost like scaffolding covered in some kind of material, square, about the height of possibly 2 cars high. And sitting on the top was an idol, a Buddha, like grey silvery colour, slightly higher than a human. It was sitting down in that funny crossed leg position, and looking very straight faced, and the people were walking past it. Nobody was looking at it or bowing down to it. Nobody was reacting to it. That was on God's land. So that was a shock to me. The more I've discovered, it's a shock. And yes, people have lots of questions. Why was that particular enormous aircraft carrier just where it was at the time? Well, I don't know. How come they didn't know? I don't know. They did, I don't know if you're aware, they did manage to source, and everyone's saying Iran, and I can't find any other source, and everything that's telling me it's from there. But they saw some unusual weapons this time, unusual materials, unusual explosives, which were deeply problematic, that have never been used in Israel before. So lots of things that happened that Israel had not encountered this before, unexpected. Now it is also interesting that the day after there were celebrations planned all over the world, in lots of cities all over the world. And you've got to get permits for these. You can't just go and do it. You've got to get permission. And those permissions are in place. Planning, I've seen documentation that show this planning and preparation has been going on for over a year. So how on earth Israel didn't know, I can't explain it. I can't explain it. But for whatever reason, the response of all these first world nations and other nations around the world, I'm quietly surprised. I'm aware what the BBC will do and what many media organisations will do and how they will twist it, and they're clever. They've got very clever tactics. Okay, we're in a time like no other. This is a time like no other. There is a time to be prepared. So even though I'm sitting here in the car in a public place, I am aware that you need to be diligent. Okay, what did I come to share? Well, yes, horror, shock. I've seen the cages and the babies. I've seen them. I've seen charred babies. I've seen, actually with my own eyes, I've seen some things that they're so strong I can't talk about them. They're so intense. Some of the images and pictures and watching the cameras go in and what they're seeing and what I'm hearing, it's really too strong. I don't want to say it, but it's at the extreme end of the unimaginable. So barbaric doesn't seem to cover it. So what would I say? Many are praying for the peace of Jerusalem. Know that God sees everything. I'm praying for those children, those mothers, all of them in captivity. There's a verse in the Minor Prophets which points out, and it actually says, Gaza will be abandoned. I've been aware of that prophecy. It says a number of things, and one thing about verses in the Old Testament, you will know that Jesus on occasions quotes a piece of a verse, stops halfway through. So that sentence, that statement, Gaza will be abandoned, I've often pondered it. Is this the time? That immediately came to mind as soon as I saw unfolding. I was aware, is this the time? Some see the response as too extreme. All I can say is, wear their moccasins, try them on, imagine it's your little baby, your little girl, your granddaughter, your daughter, your wife, your husband. Stand in those shoes, and whilst we are to forgive, you're allowed to protect yourself. And I get the impression that Israel want to make sure this will never happen again. We have Jesus Christ, and we ask for his protection and guidance. And words fail me, and I don't want to get emotional. I didn't want to go on this much, but be aware this is a biblical event. It is prophecy unfolding, and seeds of destruction are being sent forth. So remember, the ultimate outcome is that they are going to be overwhelmed, Israel, and that's what it speaks about, the end times and their land, and their only hope will be when the Messiah, Jesus, Yeshua, returns at the second coming. So they are going to be going through a rather bad time. Is this the time? I would suspect this is the seeds being planted. This is the beginning. The global response is a surprise. Of all these leading nations, I would say brace yourself, because globally things are going to unfold. I suppose this is what the video is going to be about. I was going to attempt to talk about the word judgment and righteousness. That Jesus Christ is the judge of the human race, and everybody will be judged. The followers of Jesus, so some would say, I'm a Christian. Well, you actually have to be a follower of Jesus. And that means knowing what he says and doing what he says. That defines you as a follower. So not denying his name. I'm referring to Revelation chapter 3, the church of Philadelphia, the church that pleased Yeshua and the Father. They didn't deny his name, and they kept his word, his logos. So that's his doctrines and teachings of the Messiah. They kept them. So be in that category. And there are 4 groups, and you can find this in the last chapter of Revelation. These are the 4 groups humanity is divided up into. You're in one of these 4 groups. The defiled group, the unrighteous group, the righteous group, or the holy group. So those are the 4 groups. All human beings fall into one of those 4 categories. That starts at the beginning of the Bible. Many don't notice it, and it travels right the way through the entire Bible. Right the way through. So 1 Corinthians 6. Know ye not that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Remember, kingdom is basilia, that's the sovereign rule of God. Okay, so they will not inherit. Who? The unrighteous. And then he says, be not deceived, neither. And what's interesting, in the Greek, that word neither is there in the Greek. It's talking about another category. And it starts going through, Paul starts going through that other category. And that other category, basically, Jesus teaches about what makes a person unclean. It's in Matthew 15, Mark 7, and he goes through the list. And basically he's saying, don't do this. So the 2 groups, the unrighteous, are those who do not do what he says do. They're unrighteous. They don't do what he says do. He is not their sovereign Lord, and they're not bowing the knee. And then the other group is the unclean group, who do what he says don't do. Don't be in those 2 groups. The righteous are those who do what he says, and the holy are those who live a separated life. So I'm going to put this video up for now, leave it at that, and I will do part 2 shortly. I think I've said enough. Shalom.